broadcasts on ESPN Radio and ESPNHawaii.com.
Yesterday we were talking about the Dan Leone, the Philadelphia Eagles employee who was fired because he put a post on his Facebook saying, how upset he was that the team he worked for, the Philadelphia Eagles, let go of Brian Dawkins, and he called his employer, his seasonal employer, retarded, and he got fired. Now we're talking about citizen journalists, bloggers, whatever you want to call them, and being kept away, if you will. One of the bloggers that has been talked about, you may have seen his name in the paper. His name is Damon Tucker, and Damon joins us live here on ESPN Radio. Thanks for taking time to join us here live on the air, Damon.
Good morning.
Hey, let's talk about this a little bit, because you heard what I mentioned earlier. Is it fair to say that the Big Island is, how would I say it, slow to incorporate new things into its into life, into society?
Well, I've always believed that Hawaii in general, not just only the Big Island, but Hawaii has been pretty far behind the mainland, and in particular the Big Island is 5 years behind Honolulu.
Yeah. So let's talk about the situation, because as we were kind of talking a little bit during the break, this might be something as simple as miscommunication, really.
Yeah, it could be. I run a local blog, and there's also a couple message boards here on the island, and there's also a lot of other blogs here on the island that, we all talk about different issues at different times.
And what we were talking about earlier is that it seems like maybe your blog is maybe being mistaken for another?
Well, not necessarily another blog, but possibly a message board run out of the Puna district.
All right, so because what this memo basically said was, and I'm reading, it identifies you. This is one of the memos that was on your blog. You got it on your blog. It also identifies your email address, and they mentioned some other ones as well. But one of the things they were mentioning was, they contact the Department of Public Works, and they're asking for information all the time. And one of the things you're saying is, you don't contact them.
No, most of the information that actually all of the information that I've ever published on my blog comes directly from online stats or online sites already. Mm-hmm. I don't have a need to contact the Department of Public Works or email them for anything. Aaron Steen over at the Kona blog, he's real active blogging on the east or the west side of the island about highways, and he has contacted Bruce McClure at the Department of Public Works, and he has had a fairly good relationship with the Department of Public Works in the past. So I think they may have been talking more about Aaron's blog in particular, and possibly Puna Web, which was also mentioned in the newspaper article in the Hawaii Tribune Herald. And that really, I have nothing to do with Puna Web, and that was run by another person with the same last name as mine, named Tucker.
Right, and I know they also mentioned in one of the other memos, BigIslandVideoNews.com, which I've gone there, and I've been impressed with the work that's on there. I know Dave Corrigan runs that one. He was mentioned in one of these memos. I think this comes down to, we're talking with Damon Tucker. He's got a pretty cool blog, by the way. I would invite you to check it out. I think this ultimately comes down to, and I know we were talking about this a little bit earlier, I think some people unfairly group every single blog, every single blogger into one category, into one lump thing. And as we were talking earlier, no blogger is exactly alike, really.
Yeah, that's really true. I kind of almost get offended by the term citizen journalist. I started my blog as more of a personal thing, and I would just blog about things I see in the paper, and pretty soon people started calling me a journalist, but I really don't consider myself a journalist. I just blog about things I see, and I write about them online as if it was a personal diary.
Right. But it's something that you've kept up, and obviously, you live in a community, you're passionate about where you live. Do you also think that possibly maybe the Department of Public Works is seeing things that maybe they don't want necessarily to be going out to people who have opinions? Do you think it's kind of an unfair thing?
Well, that's pretty interesting that you bring that up. I'm a member of the State Advisory Task Force for the Highway 130 project. And when this Highway 130 project first got underway, we met as a group. And part of the thing was, when we signed up to be part of this advisory group, is they did not want us to discuss what was going on in these meetings with the general public or the media. I put my foot down and said, this is a public taxpayer-funded project. I have a blog, and I will be writing about it, which, of course, they were highly offended about, but they ended up amending the charter so that I could actually write about this project on my blog. So I do find it kind of interesting that the county and state organizations in general don't want people to talk about public projects that are going on at taxpayer expenses.
And I would ask too, what do they really have to worry about? You know, if somebody is there who's actively involved in the discussions would just happen to write about it. I mean, what's the big problem?
You know, that's something that kind of perplexes me, because I don't really do much investigation myself. I just write about things that have already been written about, and I base my own opinion about it. I guess they're scared about my opinion, possibly. I'm not sure.
It's very interesting. We're talking with Damon Tucker, who's joining us for a couple of minutes. We're talking about this social networking is not necessarily the way I would describe this. We're talking about blogging. I know you don't like the word citizen journalism, but it's obvious to me, and as somebody who is on the younger side of the demographic that we serve here, blogging is here to stay. And to me, we've got about a minute left. To me, to kind of try to shut them out is a losing battle on any side.
Yeah, it's definitely a losing battle. The local media here is obviously controlled by big corporate interests, and of course anything that you see in the local papers has been filtered through their editors, who of course are worried about their advertisers possibly pulling their ads from their paper. So anything that you read in the paper is highly influenced by big money. Anytime you see something in the newspapers,
right? And you don't want to lose dollars, because the dollars keep you in business.
That's correct.
Yeah, we go through the same thing here all the time. Well, Damon, thanks so much for spending a couple minutes with us. I really do like the blog, by the way, and I hope you keep it up, and I hope you don't let people kind of discourage you from that, because I really do enjoy it, and I've read some of these different ones, and I highly recommend it. So thanks for joining us for a couple minutes, and keep up the good fight, all right?
Thank you very much, and have a good day now.
The Josh Pacheco Podcast on ESPN Radio and ESPNHawaii.com.